to collect data and come up with research papers, which are supposed to be originating from these presentations, the lessons that we are having. So I'm talking about the abstract because I know that my colleagues who are going to be talking about various issues on methodologies and statistics will expect you to be able to write abstract basing on what we are talking about now. So these are some of the issues that I want you to capture when it comes to abstract. Okay, before I stop sharing, are there any issues relating to unlocking the abstract? Hello.
So do we need to cite in the abstract?
Oh, thank you very much. That's a very good question. We don't expect any citations in the abstract unless if your study is, for example, a study which is meant to extend an existing theory, such that it may not make sense not to make reference to that particular theory which your study seeks to extend. Or you are saying you want to validate a particular theory in a different context, so that reference to that particular theory is almost indispensable because of the nature of your study. Any other issues on abstract, especially probably the components here, or whatever issues that you may want us to discuss before I stop sharing on the abstract? Remember, this is supposed to be, the abstract comes first, but you are saying it actually covers all the major components of a research paper. So some of the issues that you are going to discuss in the next sessions will also be of importance in terms of, for example, the methods section. You are going to do a lot in terms of research design in the various methodologies, quantitative, qualitative sessions. But we are saying there is a component there where you say you want to outline the route. So you briefly describe your research methodology. If, of course, you may not be very clear on the details of methodology, then you just reserve that for the forthcoming sessions on methodology. But remember, we're saying abstract is supposed to be capturing the major components of the whole research paper.
Hello, Doc.
Hello.
I just wanted to ask you on the abstract. For example,
yes.
You may start by writing an abstract, then you outline your findings, but subject to change. Is it are you able to change if the methodology reviews other findings in terms of your results and interpretations?
The most important thing there is, whilst you can, it's possible for you to have background where we were talking about the purpose and then methods, and then maybe findings. You may not have them at the beginning, unless if you're just saying you are templating some statement which does not have details. Then you have your significance. Yes, I've seen some colleagues who do that, and they usually say it helps them see the skeleton of the research paper. But you see, we are saying if you do not have findings, then in that section you are probably saying it was the major findings of the study were that, and then you don't give the details because you have not yet, for example, if you are doing a quantitative research, then you don't know whether there is going to be significant relation between A and B, C, D, and so forth. If you are doing qualitative research, probably the major themes, you don't have them because you are still to do some data collection, which will give you insights on what these people think. But the other components, you can have them. Like automatically, the starting point in terms of what we're talking about, what is the background? We are saying give your readers a glimpse into the landscape of your study. What's the broad context of your study? So that one, you have it. Then purpose. Introduce your expedition. What was the purpose of your research? Why did you undertake this? So you have that, you can talk about it. You already have thought about your methodology, right? So you can state that. And then you might have some gaps now on findings, right? Significance, you can actually have something there so that at least if it is coming out in terms of structure, then it tells you that you've got a study. If it is not coming out, if you can't briefly give the context, the importance or the purpose of the study and the method, then it means you are not well thought. So I would also say that is a very good way of checking whether your logical structure of whether you've got a logical structure of your paper. So it helps you think through before you get into the details. So that is a good way of trying to have a map in terms of your study. So if you can't write a convincing background and purpose and basically the methods, then you know that you've got serious problems. And then significance. You see, where we are saying highlight the value of the treasure, what are the global implications? You are just imagining those coming out of your tentative suppositions. What would be the significance? But it will be subject to change.
Okay, noted.
Thank you. Any other issues, ladies and gentlemen?
There was an item, Doc, in the chat channel.
Okay.
I know Doc Farmer made reference to it. They are calling for the phrase bank. That's how they are calling the unlocking the screen sharing you did.
Okay. Okay, let me go back to the phrase bank.
And they are saying, can we have that availed to that?
No problem. I'm going to circulate after the presentation.
That's fine. I think they needed to
Right.
hear that. Thank you. Otherwise, it looks like it's all done.
How many minutes do we have so that I can see whether we can?
I think we still have 10 minutes.
All right. Now, on your, Dr. Dokora, can you share the program again? I just want to refer to the last part on proposal writing.
Okay, let me do that. You have the screen there.
Oh, thank you so much. So, to research proposal writing, where we are talking about components, components of a research proposal, these are the parts that we were talking about from the introduction. If you can check my previous presentation from the introduction, then now where we are saying understanding the research problem. These are the issues that we were talking about, that they must be included on your introduction. But obviously, you are developing your introduction in those paragraphs so that you have the research problem. Then writing research objectives and questions, that's again part of your introduction. So after that, I just want us to quickly go back to hypothesis. And now the hypothesis writing, it is the hypothesis writing that we will do in our next session. And then I will then ask you to go on now to do the first part. You had written an introduction. We expect to now include all these components in our write-ups if we had missed them. So our development, yes, that part there, as you can see on the screen, it's the indicated hypothesis formulation. But we want to say, after you have made your tentative supposition, which is your hypothesis, you must be able to support it using extant literature. So that is what we are going to do in our next session. So that after that, remember, we've already talked about the abstracts here, the last part there, and the introduction. We are done with that. So what we want to do is to move to not necessarily just hypothesis formulation, but hypothesis development. So that from there, you regroup again and now have, after your introduction, want to see hypothesis development. And that means you will now be ready to get into the method section. So that would link to with the research methodologies presentations that we are going to do in your next sessions. We still have 7 minutes. So let me talk about hypothesis development. Then I'm only deferring sharing screen. We'll do that in our next team after we have been booted out. When we come back, I then share screen. But I want you to understand that if you are doing a qualitative research, you have got research questions. If you are doing a qualitative research, you have research questions. Those research questions that you are posing, you need to discuss literature that relates to those research questions. If you are doing a quantitative research, then we want to see some hypotheses. They are an academic article. You don't list hypotheses like what we usually do on our dissertation, where we just say probably it's chapter 1. Then we have a list of hypotheses that are not supported, and we defer supporting the hypothesis to chapter 2. When you are doing academic writing, you are going to have your hypothesis development after your introduction. On some journals, they actually say that hypothesis development is part of introduction. But you will find that the introduction, with all those aspects that we were talking about, that you need to hook the reader, you need to introduce the context, you want to justify why this study is important. You also want to take us through what has already been done. Now, on hypothesis development, you are making a tentative. It is coming from very careful development of previous research. So that is what you are doing. So basically, we want to have some techniques in terms of how to have a hypothesis development, or if you are doing qualitative research, you are saying, how do you discuss related literature, which is your research, almost making some suppositions which are supposed to be coming from what has already been done. So that When now you do your discussion, you are going to make reference to the extant literature and implementing your tentative suppositions under the hypothesis development section. So in most cases, we say you cannot write the introduction and hypothesis development if you haven't read enough in terms of extant literature, because you are supposed to be supporting. Now you want to indicate to us that what I am coming up with as tentative suppositions is coming from what has been read, right? So that is what we want to do. I will share screen in our next session, but I just wanted to find out how many people are familiar with the drawing a conceptual model, because when you do hypothesis development, you must be able to come up with a research model. I know with some people say in some studies it may be very difficult, but with some of the topics that we have seen here, you must be able to come up with a diagrammatic representation of the various constructs of your study. If it is a qualitative research, the research model will actually be the starting point for you to be able to do the structural equation modeling, the modeling that you are going to be talking about in your methodology sessions. You should be having a tentative model which is informed by literature, so that can actually be illustrated on a diagram. So that as you now try to justify the various links between or among the constructs of your study, you can go back to that diagram and check whether you have convincingly justified every link that is coming out of your research model. So that is also a very important component. In both quantitative research and qualitative research, the skill of coming up with a model is a very important skill, because it aids clarity. Where you've got a number of constructs, you will find that your readers will be able to comprehend the relations, the logical relations, or the logical framework of your study if you illustrate those various constructs. And that is a skill that you must be able to learn. So when we come back, we are left with just a few minutes. I'm going to share screen just indicating to you how you can come up with the research modules where it is possible, and also how to develop your hypothesis. So because we are left with a few minutes, we'll soon be booted out. I'm going to share screen in the next session. And after that, I expect you to be able to put that into practice. How many people had already thought about coming up with a research model on the topics that you had as groups? Or maybe people are not sure of what I'm talking about.
You can show your interest in responding by picking one of the arms at the bottom of your screen there, the ribbon at the bottom. It gives you a reaction list. You can do a thumb there or a hand. And the lecturer can